All right, this is Jan, and it's story time. This is episode 4 of my 3-month trip to Europe. This episode is going to be Toulon to Imperia, Italy. Let's get started with a screen share. Part 4, Toulon to Imperia. Previous episodes are at this URL right here. That's on my website. You can maybe do a quick screen grab right there. So if you have been with us for previous episodes, then you'll recognize this map right here. I started out in Holland, Groningen, Houten, Strasbourg, Freiburg, Paris, down here, southwest coast of France, Biarritz. Our previous episode was Barcelona. The entire episode was Barcelona. So I took a train from Barcelona to Toulon, where I had a contact, and I did this bike riding from Toulon to Nice. That's the French Riviera. And then this episode will also include several days I spent in Imperia, Italy, which is right up here. Let's take a closer look. Here's Toulon right here. This is the Mediterranean coast of France. And Marseille is back over this way. Spain is back that way. And there's a smaller road. Oftentimes it was bikeway also. I didn't always have to share the road with cars. There was a good bit of bikeway along here too. But these X's represent places where I stayed the night, mostly in campgrounds along the way. There's campgrounds all over the place in Europe. And the terrain was up and down, not like Corsica, but there was still a good deal of up and down. And this picture just shows this is the train on the way to Toulon. Lots of bicycles on the train. So I had a contact in Toulon, and his name was Alain. And he's a French guy, roughly my age, maybe a year or two older, and just a really, really nice guy. And this is where he lives. Alain lives in his motor home in a parking lot at a big box store in Toulon, in suburban Toulon. If you didn't see the license plates, you could think this was in the United States. A fair amount of France looks like the United States. Of course, there's other parts of France that don't look at all like the United States. But Alain lives in this motor home. He's been living here for 12 years. We'll revisit that shortly. But this is inside the motorhome. Here's Alain, a very nice guy, one happy guy. He's also a major bike rider as well. He's got a recumbent. And just a couple of weeks after I visited, he was on his way to Scandinavia, uh, doing serious miles, traveling by bike. I just had a bike with me that I took with me on a train or on a bus, and I used it, did some bike touring too. Alain, he is traveling by bike and a really, really nice guy. He met me at the train station and we biked to his place. We had to kind of manage. He's got a bed that kind of comes down from the ceiling because his place is sort of in back. And just wonderful, interesting kind of managing two people for just a couple days inside his motorhome here. So the first day I was there, we went into Toulon. This is a bikeway that goes into Toulon. Not much use. I wouldn't say Toulon looks like a heavy duty bike city. I didn't see so many bikes. This is downtown, the older town, a car free area right here, and this really nice, colorful artwork that's hanging down from these wires. That's just a beautiful touch right there. And then still downtown, this big mural. This is quite a mural. There's all these different scenes right here. It's an amazing bit of artwork. I think kind of historical, illustrating what types of jobs and professions in Toulon, I don't know, maybe a couple hundred years ago. And this, of course, some sculpture, some famous people from Toulon. So I'm sure lots of tourists have their pictures made right there. So one of the first things that we did is we took a cable car um, up to the top of this mountain that overlooks Toulon. And these are other people on this cable car. Well, actually, it's not a cable car. This is more like a gondola. This is what it looks like. Uh, wow, it's like you're flying. And of course, this is Toulon right here. You're going way up above the city. And we took our bicycles with us. That was a lot of fun. Here's my bike, kind of looking inland. Toulon would be sort of over my left shoulder right here, but this is all limestone. A lot of the Mediterranean and France is limestone. Geographically, geologically, some many millions of years ago, what's now Italy was its own tectonic plate, and it sort of bulldozed into southern Europe. And just like a bulldozer, it pushed stuff in front of it. And that's what the Alps are. They are the consequence of Italy bulldozing into Europe many millions of years ago. So we rode around up there in the mountain, and of course you come down. The road we came down on was up here. Alain, he kind of likes to go fast. I don't like going so fast, so he went on ahead. But I stopped a few times to make these photos. Just what a neighborhood right here. What a place. Can you imagine living up here on these slopes like that? It's really quite spectacular. Here's a view of more downtown Toulon. It's quite a gorgeous setting. Another picture. So we were back in town on another little outing, and this is just a big plaza in central Toulon. And I'm guessing this probably dates back hundreds of years. Certainly enough space to throw a frisbee, though we didn't throw the frisbee here, but it makes me think of that. But a public place, a huge downtown public place. So we brought along a little bit of a lunch and went to a park that Alain knows, very shady. And these two guys were at a picnic table, and we asked if we could share the table with them, and they said sure. And they were a couple of professionals who were out on lunch break, and they both spoke pretty good English. I don't speak any French, but they were very conversational and into bike riding and into ecological concerns. Really, a couple of nice guys. So back at Carrefour, this is the big box location where Alain lives. This is inside. This is a mega store. You know, it's as big as any big box you would find in the United States. It's huge. I didn't even see all of it, but it's got just about anything you wanted. It's really kind of like a mall. It doesn't really have quite that design like a mall, but it's as big as that. Here's another picture here. I mean, you get glasses, jewelry, food, clothes, uh, change your money, uh, travel agent, just anything you can think of at this place, all this. So Alain lives out in the parking lot, but he comes in here sometimes to eat. But even more important is that he comes inside to one of the restaurants and buys a pastry and a coffee. And then he can just be in there as long as he wants to use the internet because it's an internet hotspot. That's one of his important uh, uses of being out there in the parking lot. And once again, he's been out there for like uh, 12 years, and he has arrangements with people. There's a car wash right next to where he lives. He helps look after that after hours. And then the car wash helps look after his place too. But when he is off on one of his trips, he takes his vehicle, he takes his rig to a safe location. He doesn't leave that there when he's off on a bike ride. So the day came, I left. I was going to continue on my trip to ride my bike along the French Riviera. And here's Alain saying goodbye. Wow, look, he's really fit. He's a fit guy. This guy rides many kilometers, miles on his bicycle. So it was great to meet. And I was on my way. This is the waterfront in Toulon. This was the way I was headed out of town. And I had some directions moving out of Toulon, the little municipalities, they call it a commune, but the little towns, villages, jurisdictions, each seem to have a chunk of the bikeway. So the bikeway is next to the road, but it's not on the road. It's separated from the road. And of course, that is much appreciated. And this got me maybe about 20 miles out of Toulon. This would be Toulon over here. Here's one of those maps and the different communes, and the bikeway took me about this far, about 20, 25 miles out of town. So I left Toulon behind, and this is kind of what I started moving into the Mediterranean. And much of the ride is right on the water. Not all of it, but a good deal of it is. I just love it. It's just absolutely beautiful. The terrain is flat in some places and it's hilly in other places. It's nothing like I would later experience in Corsica, but there definitely some hill climbing here. And it's just beautiful. There's open areas where there's not too much habitation. And then there's other areas that are, of course, very urban. My first day out, I pulled into this little town along the shoreline, and it had a little street that ran parallel or perpendicular to the road I was on. And there was little shops and restaurants and stuff that along that perpendicular that led straight to the beach. So I just stood there looking out on the beach, and these people were in this restaurant, and this guy approached me and said, "Wow, would you like to have your picture taken?" So I said, "Sure." So he took my picture and asked me if I wanted to join them. And so I did. This is his wife here, and this is his mom right here. She's from Paris, and they're kind of thinking about moving her to where they live. She's getting older. So that's partly what they were up to. Get a little tiny glimpse of somebody's life. That's really, really fun to even have a brief encounter like that. So here I am with that picture, and that's the Mediterranean back behind, and that's my bicycle. So I continued on my way, and this is just an area where I was a bit further from the Med, wasn't within view, but just look at these hills. These would be all, these are grapes down here, and this is all very much Mediterranean. It's just a beautiful few miles on this particular stretch of the road. This was a quiet road. This isn't any cross country kind of travel right here. This was just a local road somebody told me about. So this is the way that I went. It's just absolutely beautiful. And this another little town. A lot of people play this little game with these metal balls. It's kind of a combination between badminton and croquet. And of course, all these people, sidewalk cafes, just people like to eat out in sidewalk cafes. And of course, this is all pedestrian here. So when there aren't so many cars around, it just makes the environment a lot more pleasant for just being outside and enjoying, the scenery, enjoying people. And that's what's going on right here. Somewhat further along, a little bit of a bigger town, always a lungomare in Italian, along the sea. And you can bet that in the later afternoon, this is a real promenade, people just out walking. Another picture. This was a beach I stayed at a little bit back here, and I'm just continuing on. Just views everywhere. They're just all the time. You just want to stop and just take in a view. It's just so pretty everywhere you go. And here's another. Once again, this would be a bikeway. I think they let cars go to their homes. This looks like a driveway right here, but this would not be through traffic at this location. It would only be local cars right there. So I came to another town close to a small city called St. Raphael, and this is another campground. This was a really big campground. It had like acres. These kinds of manufactured homes are really, really common at campgrounds, not just in France, but in Italy as well. So a lot of people come to these places and they stay in these kind of little, might be 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom. I've seen the insides of some. They're totally modern. They're not fancy, but they are very, very comfortable. I never stayed in one, but this particular campground just had lots and lots of these. So what do you do? This was a a more of a resort type campground. This had a swimming pool, had a restaurants, cafe, different types of activities. I'd just gone for a swim right here. I asked somebody to take my picture. And this is the campground area. They told me just go out there and find a place to put up your hammock. So this is what I came up with. And there was fortunately a picnic table right here as well. And this is another view. There's my hammock, just another view of where I was. So I actually walked around a little bit just to document. I think the European camping culture is just fascinating. And I'm thinking that some of these manufactured homes, people maybe own them or they rent them or they lease them for some time because there's a lot of personal touches to a good number of these rental leasing manufactured homes. This is not what somebody just brought with them, for a week. Somebody's put a lot of time and effort into some of these, and a lot of the decorations were kind of goofy, sort of playful. And I got some good laughs at seeing what some people have done with the front of their places here. So I left, and one town I went to, I had to find somebody who knew about computers. I had a laptop with me, and I had an issue with my laptop. And oh boy, it took a while to find this. You look at a map, somebody shows you a map on their phone, and it looks all really simple and easy. And it's not as simple and easy. Of course, I don't really know any French. And so it took me a while to find this place, but the guy was really nice. I went in and he attended the issue, and it was a minor issue. I used his Wi-Fi for a little bit, so that worked out well. So here is not an uncommon view. Of course, there's harbors everywhere, and this, after all, is the French Riviera. These are a couple of big yachts right here. I don't know if these would be considered super yachts. I kind of doubt it. They're big boats. I'm sure these were pushing 100 feet long, but there's yachts that are a lot bigger than this. And he's got like this hot tub back here. I've seen pictures and I saw some super yachts from a little bit of a distance that were way, way bigger than these. There's a lot of money in this area. So here we are. I think this is still, is this Saint Raphael, I think still. Um, so lots of nice architecture, lots of nice design for people just to walk around. This is actually, your back is to the Mediterranean right here. This is inland in this direction right here. So I am heading out of town once again, another promenade. It's just so pretty to see people out walking. There's the flags in the breeze, and then there's the hills off in the distance. It's just a very enjoyable environment. Of course, I'm just passing through. If you want to stay in places like this, I'm sure it costs a lot of money. I didn't do much of that, but it's just fun to see how people recreate. And this is a park just a little bit further along, palm trees everywhere, playground, nice places to sit in the shade. This would be a mulberry tree. I just saw lots and lots of mulberry trees. And this is coming to another town. I've been up in elevation, and and I would be going a pretty nice little downhill, coasting into the little downtown of this, and then eventually I'd be back over on this side here. And I think actually this is Cannes, back over across the bay. I think that's Cannes right there, the famous movie celebrity location. So this is about 10 minutes later. I've coasted down to the beach, and there was a little downtown here. I went into a grocery store. One of my favorite things to do after I've been biking for a while is to go in and buy a liter of orange juice and just drink a lot of orange juice. That was one of my favorite things to do. So a little bit further along, you come to this red rock area here, and it's has to be some type of environmental protected area because there's no development along here. So you come into these red rocks, and most of the area is not red rocks, it's mostly limestone. So there's some interesting geology going on here. And here's a really nice beach, just beautiful, just awesome. Just so I just love the water and the shoreline, how those features interact with each other. And sometimes you come up behind some houses, and these are some pretty cushy places. I took this picture. There's a patio here. Here's another terrace over here. Wow, you just wonder, how do you get a hold of property like that? Well, you probably start with having a lot of money, but it's just really nice design here, the landscaping, and just you can imagine the view. Wow, you do a little fantasizing. And this is a little bit further along in that Red Rock area here. There's a train line that goes right along the coast here. I've been on that train line before in years past, but this time I had the chance to do this with a bicycle. Awesome. So along the road, you're up above the Mediterranean, not too far, but I saw this kind of island, this rocky outcrop from the shoreline. And as soon as I saw that, I just said to myself, I'd really like to swim around that rock. So you can see these steps going down from the road down to a little beach down here. So what I ended up doing is going down those steps, and here's that beach right here. Quite a few people down there. It's really nice. It's sort of protected. It's a bit breezy. The med can be a little bit rough, actually, but I wanted to do a swim. It's not like I'm a distant swimmer, but I just wanted to swim around that. So I did, and the water was cool. I felt pretty confident. Uh, there were a couple times I was thinking, okay, you've got a ways to go. I got out into the more open med, and it was a little bit rougher out there. Not anything like the ocean, but it was pretty. pretty bumpy with the waves, and I was constantly being dive bombed by these seagulls. They would come down literally within a couple of feet of me, and I turned the corner around the backside, and then I had the the waves pushing me, and I made my way back here. I wasn't exhausted or anything, but I was glad to make it back to the beach. And another view just of the shoreline here. People live along here too. So I came to uh, another campground. It was late in the day. I stopped at a electric bicycle store, and fortunately, the guy in there spoke good English, and I asked him if he knew of a campground. So we did a little search on his phone. I didn't have a phone with me, but he said this is where you need to go. It's not very far. So I had good directions, and I went to this campground for the night. And this is a picnic table that I used. And there's my laptop there because there's always Wi-Fi. And I had a really nice picnic on this picnic table right here. And this is where I had my hammock hung up. And these places back here were other people on bicycles. We talked for quite a while. You know, people were riding their bikes. That was a lot of fun to do some bike connecting. And this was that evening I went out and they were setting up some kind of tournament. They're out there on the beach, lots of people out on the beach until it's dark. They really love the beach. So there's a lot of activity going on this beach right close to the campground. So this is Cannes right here, the the famous movie stars and all the cinema. And of course, they have a really beautiful Lungomare promenade right here. I biked along here and came to their where they have tourism office. And this is, I went in and got some maps. They're really nice inside, but they also have this right here, sort of instead of the footprints, it's the handprints of the stars. This is the handprints of Dennis Hopper right here. I saw a lot of these handprints and quite a few I recognized and some of them I didn't. But can you imagine Dennis Hopper kneel down and put his hands into whatever made the impression for this plate right here. So it's pretty fancy. And I had to stop in front of this casino. I didn't go in, of course, but this is Cannes, and gambling is the one of the activities there. This is the high life, I guess. Oh, let's see. We didn't want to do that. Okay, there we go. So this is just a restaurant down on the Mediterranean side of the promenade. You go down some steps. You see a lot of this. And this is just really pretty. It's just absolutely beautiful. I got no idea what it costs to have dinner down here, but it really is pretty. There's all these flowers and oleanders and cannas here and palm trees. It's a lot of flash, is what it is. And this is a little further along. I'm on my way out of Cannes at this time, and of course you have a place for pedestrians and bicycles. Actually, this would probably be the bicycles over here. I'm riding my bike in the pedestrian area, not too crowded, but always the palm trees, and of course always these big yachts like this. And I saw this facade of a house. I just like the angles of this and all the ivy growing on the walls. Very pretty. By this time, I am getting close to Nice, and the town before Nice. I'm on my bicycle, and I just, by chance, I spot this market, and I just went in and parked my bike, leaned my bike up, locked it, and went for a walk in the market here. Fruit and vegetables, different kinds of locally made sorts of foods. Just local color. It's just really nice to see a place that is uh, just open and colorful and even a little bit crowded at places. So this is actually the Promenade des Anglais, the English promenade. This is Nice right here. This hotel right here is iconic. This thing's been there for like 150 years or so. This is one of the most iconic buildings in Nice right there. And this area here, some nice shade, very welcoming. Temperatures all along here were mid upper 80s, close to 90 the whole time. Not super hot, but plenty warm. Uh, I did a little biking around in Nice. I tried to find a place to stay the night, a cheap hotel. So I did some biking around and I found a number of streets that had this type of intervention. This lane would have been a lane of traffic right here, but now it's a bikeway for to make the town a better place for bicycles. I saw this a number of places. Here are some other streets that have that same kind of treatment. Of course, one of my main interests in going to Europe was to see different places where the local cities and towns were pushing back on cars. I saw bits and pieces of that everywhere. Certainly, some cities have more recognition for doing that, but I wasn't looking for that here in Nice. I just said, "Oh my gosh, they turned a lane of car traffic into a bikeway like this." So I felt pretty good about that. And this is just a big public open space. It's just massive, just a place where people can walk. Of course, people going from one place to another, but it's just really, to me, an indication of the civility of a place is what kind of public spaces do they have. And this is a big public space in Nice. And so is this right here. All these fountains, there must be 100 little fountains. And of course, kids are out there playing in the water because it's a hot day. But once again, a public amenity. I've made the comment before that you see more public amenities in Europe because they don't have as much private space. So this is a little bit the trade-off. You can have more public places for people to come together when there's more investment in those kind of amenities. So I wasn't able to find a place to stay in Nice. So I got on the train and I headed to Imperia instead. And this is on the train going to Imperia right here. There's a lot of south facing slopes. These would be greenhouses. They're growing flowers and I guess vegetables. It's a very mild climate. After all, this is the French Riviera. They're protected from the north winds by the Alps. So you would rarely have a freeze here, even though the latitude here is probably something somewhat similar actually to Eugene. This may even be a little further north than Eugene, but give or take a couple hundred miles. But it rarely freezes here. There's bougainvillea, there's different kinds of palm trees, there's oleanders everywhere. It's a very mild climate. That's why there's all this vacation destination here. So I went to Imperia, and that's just into Italy, about 15 or 20 miles. And I got off the train. I didn't know where I was going to go, but I knew that there'd have to be a campground somewhere. So I biked down towards the shoreline, and this is all urban area. There's stores everywhere. It's a urban, and I saw these people selling beer at a festival. So I stopped, and finally I had a chance to use some Italian because now we were in Italy, and I asked if they knew of a campground. So she got out her phone, and we found a campground that wasn't very far. and talked with them for a while. She was actually from, I think, Colombia, and he was Italian. But they had a business where they would go to these kind of festivals and they had a beer booth. So that's what they were doing. But they got me directed towards a campground. And this is where I ended up. I actually stayed in Imperia for 3 nights. It's just a place that I hadn't really even anticipated, but it turned out to be a really nice visit. I really liked Imperia. So this is the campground, found a nice place to put up my hammock, and with even with a little bit of a view and a little bit of a breeze. The first day I was there, I found this panificio. Uh, it's a little bakery, bread, but also these kind of small little sandwiches, these small pastries that could have different types of fillings, could be vegetables, could be cheese, these different kinds of fillings. I just loved it. I just ate a ton of this because they're fairly inexpensive and just so tasty. I just love. I went here every day. I was there, and I bought some to take with me when I finally left, as well. I came out of the Panificio, and I saw this guy on this bicycle, and caught up with him and pulled him over. And I was just interested to see what his story was. Really nice guy. This guy was from Portugal, and he started out in southwest Portugal, and now he was up on the north side of the Mediterranean, and his destination was southern Italy. So he was only halfway to where he needed to go, and he was probably, I'm guessing, probably already gone 800 miles, and he had another 800 to go. He said his wife wasn't too happy about it, but she was resigned to. He was a bike rider, had a really nice rig right here, and a pretty ambitious bike ride. So that was good to meet this guy. And this is another part of Imperia, their downtown area. Sort of older places tend to be constructed before there were cars. So what you see right here are predated cars, and but a commercial area. There's just all kinds of different shops in here. And this is another part of downtown Imperia, very much either low car or no car right here, just totally normal. And I was just exploring, getting a little more into residential areas, and I just saw that this would be a walkway going up to somebody's front door, and you have just these vines here and container plants, and there's some bougainvillea. Just a really, it's nice to see people who have the interest and the initiative to make a nice foliage kind of display like that, that people passing by can just enjoy it too. So part of Imperia is up on a hill, a big hill. This is the old town. It was probably for defensive purposes some hundreds of years ago. But this lane right here, I'm sure, is 3, 4, 500 years old, and you have these archways, and some people again have their potted plants. This was just so nice to walk up here. You go around the corner, you go up some stairs and go around different elevation changes. You just don't know what you're going to be finding. I just love adventure and walking around a place like this. It's just one of my favorite things to do. And here's another covered area like this, all very tidy. Boy, it looks really nice. And here is their version of the little public library that people have out in front of their houses, with a little kind of big mailbox thing to have some books. Well, this is the Imperia version of that. And you have even the sort of fancy chairs to sit there and do some reading if you want. Of course, this is all covered right here. And another view, just I love the container plants. The urban areas tend to be pretty hard surface. You don't see a lot of grass in the ground. So if you want some greenery, you pretty much have to create some containers. And some people spend a lot of time looking after this. Here's a nice bench to sit at right here. And here's from up on the hilltop, looking down on the Mediterranean. You would have the road way down here. I did some biking down here between places I needed to go. And you see these women over here. I'm just imagine they've probably known each other for decades. They've probably been friends and neighbors for decades. And here's another, just a little tiny piazza. Here's a bench here and some container plants. Once again, just an odd little space, and somebody's done something really nice with that space. I just love urban features like this. And of course, I saw this shadow from the lamp, and I just had to take a picture of that. That's just a really nice effect of shadow right there. So one day I took a a half day trip to the east of Imperia. I just wanted to go in that direction, and fortunately, a good part of the way, not all the way, but part of the way was on a bikeway away from the street. So this is part of that bikeway right here. Imperia would be back behind me a couple of miles at this point. One place I came to was this little town, and I just really love this piazza. The beach is just right over here. There's sidewalk, cafe, or restaurant. Just the colors of the buildings are just so pretty. I just love the pastel colors. And obviously, a lot of effort has been made to turn this into a really pretty place. Of course, tourism is the primary part of the economy here. So then there's a motive to make this nice, but they're successful. This just looks so nice. I love the colors and the beach right here. And this is another view of that same place. That previous photo would have been taken from back here somewhere. There's the beach. I love the palm trees. So a little bit further along, I came upon this historical marker. This is a defensive tower that, as it says, dates back to 1561. I read all this stuff, and back 450 years ago, there used to be pirates that came up here from Africa, and they pillaged the countryside and the cities, and the locals got tired of it, so they decided to build some fortifications to fight back the pirates. So that's what this is right here. This is a fortification. Oh, there's a telephone call, but I'm going to keep going. So this is a another little back street away from where the actual Mediterranean is, and this is just a steps going up to this residence right here. Uh, this certainly doesn't look particularly glamorous, but it's just a nice place. This is where people live. I just like seeing the multi levels of how people live. And then, of course, I came to a church, and I went inside the church, and you just have to imagine this is a floor right here. And does that do something to your sense of perception right here? So this is part of the culture. Wow, that is pretty spacey. And then another day, I went in a different direction. Oh, God. And I wish that phone call would stop. And this is a different direction, just a beautiful park. Okay, got it all. Um, there's an amphitheater back over this way, and just a really nice public place, just right along the water. There's a road back over this way that actually kind of dead end. I was able to continue going in this direction and the road gave out, but you could still ride a bike. Once again, here's some mulberry trees right here. And another view of this was home. This was my living room right here where this tarp is right here. And I was able to hang stuff up on this wooden fence. I had, of course, my Frisbee, which I used a lot, mostly as a plate. But again, this is the campground. And this place also had a picnic table that I made use of. And this is just a wonderful dinner. This would be from that panificio, this particular uh, kind of pastry with cheese in it. This was part of my dinner, cucumber and tomato, yogurt, avocado, awesome cheese. I just loved it. When I wasn't traveling, I would have meals like this. I didn't eat out in a restaurant very often, but I loved to have this kind of a dinner. So it became time to go. And I checked out from the campground. This guy was a really nice guy. His dad owned the campground and he sort of inherited the campground. And he was a very agreeable fellow. I liked him. And it was a very enjoyable stay here in Imperia. And I said goodbye and I biked up to the train station from where I had first arrived from. And I took the train and my destination would be on the train would be Milano. This is the train station in Milano. It's really a big train station. And from here, I would go on to Lago Garda. The next episode will be the glacial lakes of northern Italy. It's where the flat plains come up to where the bulldozer of Italy pushed up all these mountains. And in the last ice age, these mountains were the source of glaciers that came down and scoured out the valleys. And when the glaciers melted, some of it was scoured out, it's turned into these awesome, beautiful lakes. So that's what a lot of the next episode is going to be is Garda, Como, and some bike riding in that area as well, and a visit to Bergamo as well. So that's the completion of this episode. Once again, we'll go up here. If you want to see the other episodes, you can go to this website, my website, go to that URL, and you can see the other episodes. So thanks for watching. And if you have any comments or questions, feel free to email. Okay, thanks.